We concluded the season over the weekend. We had the spectacular and the nearly so. The Wemby-led Spurs take down the Nuggets on a Friday night, an extraordinary night of basketball, the likes of which a lot of people are going to talk about for a long time. Then they closed it out on Friday. I begged for a G League battle led by Wemby. Well, we got a G League battle. Wemby was there in spirit. Did you see the video? Was he shooting the cannon off? Was that this game?
Yeah, it was this game.
Yeah, that was
he
cool.
He shot the t-shirt can, and then he went and worked concessions for a little bit too. He was kind of just enjoying himself. Good for him.
A man in full. He completed a stellar rookie year. Stellar. Just as good and as much and as interesting as any rookie year ever. And how hard was it to live up to billing? How often does that really happen? When the billing for somebody was truly undersold. He was more than we thought he would be. And that was going to be hard. And he was.
I think that what he did was not without, I don't say cause for concern, but there was a moment where we were like, okay, tidy this up. You know what I'm saying? But in a weird way, that made the overall landing of the plane much better. You know what I mean? There was some weird, just kind of normal rookie wall, whatever struggles. And then there was, okay, you're stupid talented and you're stupid amazing and all this is unbelievable. And now we're about to have stupid levels of success, assuming your front office starts doing proper things around you.
You know, yesterday, pregame was kind of the state of the union. I mean, after the glow that was Friday night, you could kind of sense on Sunday that bags were packed and reservations were confirmed. And there's a lot of tall brothers walking beaches real soon. But in the Pop talked a lot about the season. And most importantly, his star pupil, Wemby, and his improvement over the year.
He's a lot more disciplined than he was in trying to channel his talents in a direction that would make him more consistent and make the team more consistent as far as understanding how to play. Time, score, when to be aggressive, when to shoot early shots, when not to shoot early shots, posting up more than he ever has in his life. He's always pretty much played on the perimeter. And, you know, we got him down to play a little bit more of a inside game along with his outside game, and he warmed up to it.
A little bit.
He improved significantly in handling the physicality, gauging the speed, length, and athleticism of his opponents, and understanding that he was in a different league, and some adjustments would have to be made on his part in those areas, and he did it. So the fact that he learns so quickly and carries things over from a practice to a game are a portent of things to come, where he's going to continue to be an awesome figure on the court.
That's Coach Greg Popovich, the current head coach of your San Antonio Spurs, speaking to the state of his newest star pupil, Victor Wembanyama, who is eminent to be Rookie of the Year, probably runner-up, if not Defensive Player of the Year. And my guess is he's going to end up on an All-NBA team, probably third string. That's the kind of season his rookie had. Not since Tim Duncan has anybody, or LeBron, has anybody done anything like what we saw there. So that being said, I have a question for you. And he talked about as he learned the game. What was more important this season, him learning the game or Pop learning Wemby?
Definitely the former. I mean, how long do we think Wemby's career will be? Let's call it 15 years, right? To be super optimistic. I mean, the significant majority of those will come without Pop. Yeah, and I mean, no disrespect at all towards Pop, but in that respect, no pun intended, it was way more important for Wemby to adjust to the NBA, which he did, and which definitely came with its fair share of hiccups, than it was for Pop to, put this puzzle together specifically.
Because, we saw kind of a stumble out of the block. And, we were told at training camp, as he had witnessed Wemby for for a duration. I think Pop was walking out of practices going, oh my God, wait till you get a load of this. And I think he was a little bit exuberant. I think he saw in training camp this freak, this alien, and walked out of training camp after days on end going, my goodness, wait till you see what I'm about to do to the league. And was a little bit more optimistic, let's say, than probably he should have. But he did tell us yesterday that it really wasn't a shock how they stumbled out of the block.
No, it's not. I mean, and you know the answer. I mean, if people have never played together, it's going to take time. And in the beginning of the year, probably the first 15, 20, 25 games, you're starting different combinations, different people are coming off the bench, you're playing, and you decide on something else. Just trying to figure out who plays best with each other, groups. And it takes time for that. And if there's an injury that happens in the middle of that, it just sets you back even more because you can't get a good feel. You don't have enough possessions, either defensively or offensively to make a good general statement about what you should be. And so that's why we made a big deal in the team about at All-Star break seeing what we would do from there forward, given what we had to go through in the beginning. And, if you check, the top 8 or 10 stats on offense or defense, you'll see that we've gone from the end of the 28, 29, 30 to the mid-range or lower in almost all those categories. So it's a huge jump. And I wish the next season started. I need about a week and a half. I'll be ready to go. The players don't want to see me that soon, so we'll take a little longer.
Greg Popovich pregame yesterday as they were prepping for the Pistons, but the season ended at the buzzer on Friday night as the Spurs dispatched the Denver Nuggets and threw them into second place in a very difficult and different playoff run. A huge win on Friday. And I liken it to, I'll never forget as I was learning to play golf. I had, your first couple of rounds, you think you're going to be playing like Scheffler, and you're not. And, it's a game you want to give up, but it's just that one hole. Normally, you hope it's the 18th of the last hole where you come out and 3 straight shots, you're putting, and you walk off like, I'm a professional golfer. I think that the Spurs got a taste of what playoff basketball will feel like and what winning basketball feels like, just enough to kind of spur them into an exciting offseason. I know it did a lot for me, 7-3 in the last 10.
I think so. It's one thing to go 7-3 in your last 10, but it's another to have quality wins like against serious playoff teams like the Knicks and the Nuggets. I mean, and those are things you can hang your hat on. Those are things that I think you can feel really proud about, and those are moments that you can certainly look to as defining moments. Those will be at the beginning of Wemby's Hall of Fame video montage. They'll show him throwing the ball into the crowd after the Knicks win, and then they'll play the audio clip from Rob Thompson in the morning huddle like, I can't believe the audacity of this young man to do that and not hand Jalen Brunson the ball after he scored 61.
It cost him $25,000.
They'll show him flexing against Denver, and they'll be like, that was the last moment. Like, it reminds me of what Danny Hurley said after obviously everybody talked about it a week ago. I mean, even beyond that, after they lost to Villanova, when he was like, you better get us now. Like, because we're coming. And it kind of feels that way for Wemby. And so in that respect, I've decided in the process of this conversation that I'm rooting for the Bulls on Wednesday night, because I need Trae Young to go home, start packing, get on ice. I don't need you to play any more playoff basketball, Trae. We'll see you soon.
Well, that really is the next, right? As we start focusing on the draft, we know the draft order. They sit at 5, and they're holding the Toronto. And we won't know the Toronto pick until the lottery. The higher the Toronto pick, it is protected. And right now I'm rooting for Toronto to hold on to that pick, but I don't know where the Spurs go. But here comes the offseason. Pop was asked that about the offseason yesterday, and he said it's a collaborative kind of thing.
Oh, sure, we all do. I mean, this isn't a 1, 2, 3-man show. RC's involved, Brian's involved, all of Brian's staff, all my coaches, myself. No, we don't care where the ideas come from. We want everybody's opinions. Try to triangulate, and see
Everybody's?
Where most of the sentiment falls. Do we want this, that, or the other? Do we want to let this person go, sign this free agent, trade this person? All those things are discussed broadly. So it's always been and always will be that way as long as I'm here.
I was led to believe that you don't care. I recall a story that you relayed to us that you were dozing during the lottery. That, it's right in RC. They go get the guys. I just coach them, I'm just an old dude just trying to hold on at the end. But now it's a collaborative event and we're all involved and no idea is bad. Wow, it's amazing how a season has changed. How last year you were just a guy, somebody called, hey, coach, you won the lottery. Who? I did. And who are we going to draft?
Another glass of red, though. Another glass of red as we'll celebrate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We'll go that route. I appreciate what you're saying, and you spoke the truth there. This I buy. I was dozing during the lottery and woke up by my son-in-law as I'm jetting off to Paris or whatever it was. I don't buy that part, but this I get. The collaborative thing.
It's why sometimes the world of sports can be so silly. We don't need you to lie. You know what I mean? We don't need you to embellish. We don't need you to be silly and say ridiculous things. So this is, look, the last few games or last ride was a lot of fun, right? Ever since, Pledge and I went and saw them get shellacked. The Spurs turned it up. Went 7-3 in their final 10. But in addition to, I think we can all admit there's a kind of a relief to it being over, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's over. All right, cool. But beyond that, what's really exciting, or I guess, fueling about it all, is the most important offseason ever for the Spurs has just begun. Like now is when the game's just ended, which means now you're getting to work. This is the most important offseason ever for the San Antonio Spurs.
I will say that I agree, but I'll tell you this: as important as this year is, and it is, next year will be more. It'll be more important, though. This year is the most important the Spurs have ever had.
It'll be more. There's a Tom Brady-ism that I'm sure many people said before him, but this is kind of a flex in and of itself. But I heard him once in an interview say, I'm often asked like favorite Super Bowl ring, and I always answer the next one. And that was such a badass answer. And so to that point, like even after the offseason you're talking about, it will be the next one.
Right.
Like you will have to be continually tinkering and improving. Exactly. And so, but we've now hit that moment. Okay, great. Won the lotto, got Wemby. Awesome. Proof positive. He is him. He is the dude. Now it's go time. Now we're running the race. The marathon has truly begun, and you have to take advantage of every single mile.
So as we head into the offseason, there's guys that we're never going to see again. We can list those. I don't want to talk about them because that's sad. But there are other dudes that are going to be here, either short or long term. And you think of it, it's Devin, Keldon, Jeremy, Trey Jones. Those are the four that coming into this year we knew were at least pivotal parts. Now we'll kind of digest what they did over the season and compare what they did and where they improved against where Wemby went and where he improved to, and that will be really the key as to the other four. But Pop was asked about those four and their improvement over the year.
But Devin has turned into a confident scorer. He can shoot it, he can drive it. He's upped his defense, understanding that no defense, no wins. So he's made a big step in that regard. Keldon has become more of a all-around player rather than the bull in the china shop. Give me ball, I go to rim. He's a little bit more nuanced than that now, which helps him. And of course, Jeremy, he's really a prime defender. He can guard 1 through 4 and enjoys it, which is great. I don't have to convince him to enjoy it. So those three guys have been special in that regard. Trey has been Trey. He gets taken for granted because he does the same thing every night. and gives 100% of what he has. And everybody respects it, knows it, and we need it. So his consistency is off the charts.
I wouldn't call that a ringing endorsement, but there you have it. Those are the four. Short term, long term, no term on those. We expect all four to be here for 2 more years. No, let me parse them. Who is the most likely to exit of those four via trade?
I don't think there is I mean, like, they're all equal in my mind. You know
Really?
what I'm saying? Like, well, I mean, who are you beholden to? I mean,
I think in the order of conversation. Although I would flip Jeremy there. I think Devin Vassell is the most likely long-term Spur because of he progressed as Pop said, he is now a scorer. But more importantly, as the All-Star game break through now, and I've made jokes about Spurs are better without him and Keldon. That was jokes. I think that Devin is the most likely and probably the best of the four to last. I don't think anybody's got a career here, but I do think he's got at least one more contract. And the other three, I don't know. But I feel comfortable that Devin, at the very least, is the long-term guy here. And the next after that is Jeremy Sohan. The only problem with Jeremy, apart from his guarding 4 positions, which is a nice thing to have, is he is so limited offensively that it is to the detriment sometimes. That I think that will be the most important thing that Jeremy can do in the offseason is, one, lead the Polish national team in scoring through the playoffs and just become more of an offensive threat. And if he can do that, then I do think there's a long term here for him. I don't know where Keldon's going to be. I know that once he got hurt, I was reading an interesting number in our show prep materials, how once Keldon got hurt and when he wasn't there, the mid-range game for the Spurs disappeared. If there's no Keldon, there is no mid-range game for the Spurs, period. Which is that both a ringing that's good and that's also bad, because that also tells me that that's not a focus of this offense.
Nobody is ever happy to see anybody get hurt. At least I hope nobody is. But this last, week and a half was very interesting, right? I mean, it just kept, it was, after the Suns win and, whatever's like, oh man, haha, they can win without Wemby and they can't win with him. So maybe they're better without him. I like it was these like funny, stupid jokes. This started off as that, but it kind of grew. I mean, this was a legitimate sample size here. The overall, I saw Ryan Russillo was chatting about it over the weekend as well. Like, there's so I think a lot of Spurs fans would be like, that's fine if the mid range went away, because everything else improved. I mean, everything else generated positive, momentum. I mean, it's. I think it would be an overreaction to say like, oh, that's enough to go off of, but it's not nothing at this point in time. I mean, it was that large of a data set.
We're reading the brigade bars that's strolling through. I'm with you. I think Devin does have another gear. Let's give credit to who that was. Can we pop that back up there, Edwin? I do think that that's long-term. And Keldon, Mr. Ball Hog, I'm not going to go that far because he does bring some other stuff. And his job is kind of to be a ball hog as a sixth man. So I'm not going to assign the label ball hog. It's his job to come out and do things as a sixth man, whether it be to do things defensively, do things to get to the rim, but to shake the snow globe as it was. And I think he improved on that. But there's a lot of guys that can do that, is where I'm kind of headed in that direction for the team. Now, as we head into the offseason, one of the revelations as the season closed down, I think, was the play of Mamu. Sandro Mamusilasvili. That guy's got something. And I think it's more because Wemby likes playing with him. And I think it's the style of player that he is that Wemby enjoys. That, Mamu's a downhill dude, man. And not afraid to mix it up down low, tough. My takeaway over the last month of the season, or at least the last 2 weeks, was I thoroughly enjoy Sandro. I felt like he was kind of, he took a lot of things under his belt. He's the most improved Spur over the last second half of the season, I think, along with Trey Jones, certainly improved. Of the guys that are going to be around next year, I'd like to see Sandro be one of the dudes along with Bassie and, once he gets healthy. be here for a minute. I think there's something worth. And Dominic Barlow's another that I liked what I saw, depending on how they draft and the free agents that they bring in. I do see some potential for growth there. You brought up the Bulls winning because of some benefit to the Spurs.
They play the Hawks in the play-in,
And
so it's really just a matter of
don't you get a
Hawks out of
sense
here.
that the Hawks are looking for a reason to make some moves? Counterbalance for me, RJ, your desire for Trae Young, and I share the same desire with what we're hearing from Brian Windhorst and that socialist basketball podcast they have, the Collective. That the Spurs, while we were told a couple of weeks ago, might want to press fast forward, that Wemby's hearing that no, they're still on the same schedule, that it's still about incremental growth, and the real focus for grand improvement ain't this summer, but next.
We both just agreed that this is the most important offseason ever.
No, it is. It is.
Granted,
question.
Next year will be more important, and the year will be more important, or the next year, so on and so forth. Like we're in that era now. So if it doesn't, it's more about what Trae Young represents. If there is not an all-star on this roster to provide help, now ideally, in my meek and humble opinion, it would be somebody who can be a facilitator. It can be somebody who can handle things. I know that Wemby feels capable of doing that himself, and you want to from time to time, Wemby, by all means. But it just cannot be, I love Trae Jones. It cannot be Trae Jones. You've got to go find somebody who you can trust to run this whole thing and be the straw that's, Wemby is the drink, don't get me wrong, but you have to find the straw to stir it all. And if it's not Trae Young, so be it. But you have to take a big swing this offseason. You have to. You cannot. It's time to make a move. You cannot hang out on the wall anymore. You got to get out on the dance floor.
Looking at the unrestricted free agents of this year, if it's just a go buy them, not restricted and have to deal with whatever, but just go get them. You're not competing against anybody. There's really not a lot there. Pascal Siakam's there. DeMar's going to be free. D'Angelo Russell. There's some players that will certainly help you. Like I like Jonas Valanciunas as an unrestricted free agent. He's going to go low key. Won't be the kind of guy that gets a lot of money. But for the Spurs, depending on how they draft, I like the idea of a big. That's the unrestricted market this year. Next year, it's a little bit better. If you really want to spend some money in 25, if nothing happens between now and the trade deadline and contracts don't get at, we're looking at the likes of Paul George and let's see, for 25, didn't Jason Tatum's going to be a free agent. LeBron will continue to be a little bit more in a couple of years. I can't imagine an offseason where they don't go and improve this team. I can't imagine something that happens this summer. It might not be super. It might not be Trae. But they're going to have to start to solidify a couple of positions. And I don't know which they're going to try, whether it's where Keldon has been, whether it's a big. But I think the draft will be a good barometer. But there's no help coming in this draft. There's certainly not a Wemby. And think about everybody after Wemby in this draft. Remember when we talked about Scoot Henderson, where there was a legitimate, like, if we don't get Wemby, Scoot looks like an NBA point guard. That guy looks like he can play. And he did. And not even close, man. And if Scoot was in this draft, I think he'd be number 1 overall. To give you an idea of what this draft looks like.
And that's why everyone should be rooting for the Toronto pick to remain protected.
Let that go away. Next year, a little bit better.
Right. And that's if you cannot rely on the draft. You can, what I'm saying? Like, you can't just run this back with, whoever your top pick is and act or expect us to act like that's enough. You're here now. Again, we're not saying do anything ridiculous, but you have to be aggressive. You have to live outside of your norms. You have to be willing to try and fail. There's no guarantee in anything here. You have to be willing to try things that you do not necessarily have full face trust in because you think that there's an opportunity. We want to see this has to be an offseason of risk, not complete and total risk and not ridiculous risk, but there has to be risk.
I would say the risk that you'd be willing to take on as, say, a 40-year-old with a family. enough to look forward to. You need a little bit of bonus. I need to, I can still swing for the fences. I got time to bounce back, but this is no time for conservatives. And you're going to have to be ingenuitive because the talent market is kind of weird this year. You're going to have to be very appropriate with the guys you bring in.